Welcome to another episode of Yet I Choose Joy. I am very excited because I have a very special guest to introduce you to today. Her name is Melissa Winters, and she has been a member of our Loved and Blessed community for quite a while now. You may have met her at one of our online uplift gatherings, or you might have been encouraged by all of the uplifting music that she shares here inside of our community. I'm really excited to be able to sit down with her, chat with her, and invite y'all into the chat to hear more of her testimony of how she has been able to deepen her faith and really be resilient, even while living with a chronic illness. And that's something that I know touches many of your lives, whether it's you personally or someone that you love. And so I hope that her testimony and everything that she shares will truly uplift your spirit. So I hope that you will grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you like. This is my hot cup of sugar, as I like to call it. Grab something warm and cozy and settle in and just enjoy this conversation. And please make sure to join into the conversation with us. Share in the comments any thoughts that you have, what from her story maybe has encouraged or inspired you, any questions that you might have that she might be able to give some advice on from her own personal experience. The whole idea of this is to introduce you to one of our loved and blessed ladies who's very active here in the community, get to know each other better, and encourage each other. So grab your coffee, your tea, hot cocoa, whatever you like, and let's get into it. So hello, Melissa. I am very excited. I'm literally so excited. I said that to you right before we started recording. I'm so excited. I feel like I know you already.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Even though we've never actually met in real life, but I consider this real life these days,
Right.
right? The friendships and connections that we make online, I think can be just as deep as people who, we see every Sunday or every Monday at work or whatever. So I wanted to say to you before we even jump into some of the questions that I have for you that I really appreciate the joy that you've brought to the community ever since you've joined us. All of the music that you share, and you've shared some like movies and TV shows and different things that have just been really uplifting. And so it encourages me, and I know it's encouraged a lot of the other ladies. So I just wanted you to know that
Oh,
you are very appreciated.
thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I enjoy doing it.
Yeah. So I guess before we get started, tell me, because I know we've kind of had our own
Sure.
side chats inside of the
Yeah,
community, but let's introduce you to the ladies who are watching. Tell them a
absolutely.
little bit about yourself and how you even found out about Loved and Blessed.
Okay. It was during COVID.
Yeah.
It was during, well, like you said, 2020.
2020. Yeah.
And then during that period, I was used to doing retreat teams at my parish
Yeah.
for the teenagers. For
Okay.
many years I've done that. So that kind of was on the wayside because nothing, right?
Yeah.
So there were two reasons that I was what how I found them and what happened was that I think I was yearning
Hmm.
for more of God in
Yes.
my life because I didn't have that team experience, I was yearning for more of God. I was yearning to learn more, which I always am
Yeah.
about, my faith.
Yeah.
And then the second big thing was I was really wanting connection.
Yeah.
So I was just Googling one day. That's why I say this was
I love it.
all a God act
I love it.
because I thought that it was just a box, which was fine. That
Yep.
was cool to me. I was like, okay, these things will encourage me,
Yeah.
whatever. Then I found out it was a community.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm telling you. So I joined 2 months before you guys have that Joy virtual retreat.
Yes.
And I told my mother, I was at my parents' house all through COVID.
Yeah.
And I told my mom, I said, there was one point during the retreat that I remember when we were able to ask questions
Mm-hmm.
and Rachel was speaking. I
Yeah.
remember friend Rachel,
Uh-huh.
and she had prayed over me.
Mm.
And I lost it, like in
Mm.
joy, in sorrow, and happiness. Like it was the most blessed thing that's ever happened to me, almost
Mm.
like,
Mm.
and I felt such a connection.
Mm.
And like from there on, I was like, I'm here. Like this is where I am.
I love it. I love that.
And it's really a beautiful women's community. It really is.
Thank you. I,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know, I am so grateful because I remember after the retreat, even you reaching out and saying, like, when you have another one, can you please have another virtual one?
yeah.
And I remember saying to one of my friends, 2020 was one of those years where, of course, a lot of us had a whole bunch of other plans. And I
Yeah.
remember, right? And I remember thinking to myself, because the plan was to have another in-person retreat. And then I remembered thinking to myself, you know what? The Lord, like, he just closed a bunch of doors, but I didn't feel like he was closing the door on, like, having a gathering, because we had had a
Yeah.
physical in-person gathering the year before. And I said, okay, Lord, I'm like, what is this supposed to be? And I remember a lot of people actually trying to discourage me from doing it online because they kept saying that they didn't feel like there would be the same type of level of connection that we had had from the in-person ones. Because we had at that point had two in-person ones, and so people were
Uh,
like, "Oh, it's going to be online. I don't know if it's going to be the same," because those gatherings had been so intimate and so really
sure.
moving. And I was like, "Nope. I know this is what God is telling me to do." And I said, this is also an opportunity for so many of the ladies who are in the community who couldn't come out to California or LA for a day or two for one of our other gatherings. And so I remember after it when you had sent me a message and just said, I loved it. It was so great. And I just, those are the things that I literally, I get so worked up about because I'm just like, God, you knew, like, even before, and even, that was going to happen. And you knew, like, even doing the whole virtual thing and with different not technological issues and trying to get people into the little breakout rooms for the intimate kind of conversations and prayer, and so many people being like, wait, don't end them, like, can we go back in them because they were so good. And I just was sitting there like, God can use technology. He can use,
Yeah.
you can have that connection even when it's not in person. But it's more about being comfortable and being genuine and being able to just love on
Right.
each other, and whether that's through the
Absolutely.
camera or if it's in person. And it warms my heart to when you say that, how much that meant to you, because it
Yeah.
yeah, that's literally why this whole thing exists, is for moments
It
like
was
that.
amazing. And that the little plant that you had sent us
Yeah.
in the thing,
Uh-huh.
I'm telling you, my mom and I would get so excited. My mom would be like, Melissa, look, it's growing more. Because I told her what we did. And she
Uh-huh.
said, see, look, it's
Growing.
sprouting more.
I love
Uh,
it.
that was the best example of something
Mm.
I've done in so long.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I know,
You
that's why
really
I'm
do
like,
come out with great things. You come up with great ideas.
well, and again, it's not me. Like,
Right.
I know it's I am grateful. I'm not, I am so grateful. And I know that I'm grateful for the talent that God's given me.
Yeah.
But it's just, it shocks me sometimes where I'm like, really, Lord, that's interesting. Okay. I'm not sure how that's going to work, or if people are going to be like, what is this girl talking about? But then when
I
we,
was skeptical
right?
at first. I was like,
Like,
okay, we're gonna put paper in here.
yeah, like what? But yeah, I mean, and I have three other little exercises that I'm hoping to incorporate into our next thing. I'm
I
not
really,
sure. Yeah, so
I'm
I'm
so
really
excited.
excited. Yeah, I'm very
I'm
excited too.
excited.
Um,
So that
but
is how I came to find Loved and Blessed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I,
then, like you said, we've had chats on the side. I've gotten to
yeah,
know you a lot better. I feel like I've gotten to know a handful of the ladies, enough.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's nice. It's really nice.
yeah.
So,
Well, and I love that you've invited other ladies into the community, because that's the whole point too, right? Is like, hey,
yeah,
if you know somebody that would, benefit from this, bring them in. The more
absolutely.
women that we have, the better. Because I think each of our personal experiences is so unique. And
Yeah.
so we all have a story to share, and that would encourage, someone else.
Well,
And so,
I'm the oldest of four
wow.
siblings. I have two brothers and a sister.
Hmm.
My sister's the youngest, and
Okay.
we're 9 years apart.
Oh,
My
wow.
brothers and I are close in age. Um, then my parents are still alive,
Oh, that's
thank
awesome.
God.
Yeah, that's a
And
blessing.
it's a very, very big blessing. And I have a very close family. And my mom has she has four sisters. So I have a very big extended family.
Yeah.
And my family is some of, I'll let you guys know, but it's some of what has gotten me through really hard times in my life. So that's important.
Yeah.
Um, and I was born, like I said, pretty much born with severe asthma,
Mm.
where it not something where like you're just using an inhaler every
Right.
day, it's like my best girlfriend always tells me, like, that's just like the very least of it right now. A lot of complications came with the medication I had to take for the asthma.
Mm.
So I was diagnosed at 6 months old
Wow.
with the asthma. And yeah, my mom is a nurse, so she kind of knew I was wheezing even before 6 months.
Uh-huh. See, God
But
even
they
knew
didn't.
before you were born who to give you
It's
to.
right, exactly. I believe that
I love
absolutely
that.
happened. So yeah, so I was diagnosed with the asthma, and I've had some, big struggles
Yeah.
with I had to be on prednisone steroids for
Wow.
many, many years.
Yeah.
And I'm still actually on them for, other reasons, like my other things have gone on that I've stated them now.
Yeah.
But like it was hard at times. I had a rough time in middle school because I was made fun of a
Yeah.
whole lot.
Mhm.
You gain a lot of weight from steroids,
Yeah.
and you get very hungry. Yeah, I know a lot
Mhm.
of people have been on them for other reasons
Yeah.
probably. And you get very, very
Hungry.
depressed.
Yeah.
Depression is a big side effect.
Yeah.
And it's a very hard one to battle because the medicine is making you feel this way.
Right.
So it's hard to get out of that. It's
Hmm.
like when you have a chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to me, it's also sounds like the struggle between the medicines that you need or treatments that you need to actually deal with the asthma, but then those cause these other things that, then deepens, causes other issues. And
Right.
it's kind of, it's, I don't know if you call it a catch 22, but it's one of those things where it's
Yes.
right. It's like but
It's
you
a
need
two-edged
this and then
sword.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're grateful for the medications, but at the same time,
Right.
they cause all of this other stuff. So it's a lot to deal
Yeah.
with, especially as a child. I mean, so this
Yeah.
is like pretty much your whole life from 6 months old.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was because, like you said, and in those days, even like now, I'm even on an injection for my asthma, and
Okay.
I've been like, wait, like this is the thinnest I've been in
Okay.
a very long time, and the best I felt. But in those days, like, steroids was really the only way to treat a severe
Hmm.
attack.
Yeah. And explain to
So
people who maybe have never experienced, maybe only know of asthma because I actually had seasonal asthma, completely not
uh-huh,
the same. I mean, it's not anything close to
that's
what
what
you've
my brothers
experienced.
and sister have. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of weird. I've experienced it like 3 times in like
Mm.
throughout my life. So it's not even a consistent thing. And the first time I really didn't know what was going. I just was like, "Am I completely out of shape?" I tried to walk up like 4 steps and like I just
Yeah.
couldn't breathe. And so like I've had like that much of an idea of what you go through kind of on a daily
Mhm.
basis. Maybe give the
Mhm.
ladies who are listening an idea of how the asthma actually affects your day-to-day life.
Well, like I said, this is actually the best I felt with the asthma itself in a
Yeah.
very long time. But yeah, it's a struggle. For instance, like I ended up going to an all girls Catholic. I went to Catholic
Catholic
school
school.
my whole life,
Yeah.
except for I was going to the public school for half of a year.
Okay.
And that's when I was made fun of very badly.
Yeah.
So we found a Catholic private school, all girls in the area, and that that's where I
Yeah.
found my peace. So
That's,
that was a godsend in
yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
But for instance, though, like they made adjustments for my classes because they would be up one flight of stairs, and that's like you're struggling, you're short of breath,
Yeah.
and you can only use that inhaler like every so many hours because your heart
Right.
could, like it's not, your heart could stop literally
Yeah.
if you use it too often. So yeah, in my day-to-day life, it it was a struggle, like being short of breath. I have to
Mhm.
do breathing treatments every day still.
Okay.
So right now it's just, I never would complain about this, Lord, because this is the least of it, that it's really just at this point, it's like something that's a pain in the neck. It's a
Yeah.
time consuming thing,
Right.
which I'm like, don't even complain about.
Which is an awesome attitude to have. And for you now in this season of your life, are you, tell me a little bit more about kind of the maybe the depression or anxiety or things that kind of are side effects of that. Are you still experiencing those things, or are those kind of, more under control at the moment?
um, they're more under control at the moment,
Okay.
but I'd say for a few reasons.
Okay.
One being, I found a very good aid.
Okay.
So that has helped me.
Yeah.
And in a minute, I'll backtrack a minute on that. But I found a very good aid. She's very helpful and she's very kind. She's very faithful.
Yeah.
So we talk about faith a lot.
That's awesome.
It is
Yeah.
really awesome. And she just does and does and does for me. Like she's a
Yeah.
hard worker. So that, believe it or not, Christmas time,
Yeah.
because Christmas time always brightens me up.
That's awesome. Yes.
And I'd say now that I am back in my apartment, I have a little more connection with a couple of other friends.
Yeah.
And lastly, I just went on, which I told you, a parish retreat.
Yeah.
So I actually had known a girl that we kind of sparked our friendship on the first one I went on. And then we ended up being on the team for this retreat.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been like an angel sent to me. Like she brightens my day.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like that. But and also being way down on the steroids is a
Yeah.
big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I take medicine for the depression every day. I take
Yeah.
Effexor
Okay.
every day. And some people think, I'm saying in this world, some people
Yeah.
think that's not a great thing. Well, you
Right.
know what? I don't believe it.
I don't either.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of people now, they need it.
Yeah.
And depression is, it is
Serious.
as much of, as
Yes.
much of a debilitation as a
Yes.
physical,
Yes. Exactly. Well, and that's one of the things that I always share with people because, I think most of the ladies who are watching this know that, I've battled with depression pretty much my whole life. I
Right.
wasn't diagnosed until like my early 30s when I actually it got really, 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 really serious. It was serious before then, but I think that I kind of had a breaking point and everything just kind of felt like it fell apart. And I I always tell people, I have some friends who are still very opposed to any sort of medication. And I've talked to them where, they have children who are battling depression or other mental kind of challenges. And I've said to them, it's a personal choice that you don't have, just because you try medication as a course of action. It's not the only way to help with depression, right? But it is a
Right.
tool that we have. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it forever.
Yeah.
Because, right? Because the first time that I went on medication, I was actually on it for maybe 3 years and then weaned off of it. And I was actually stable for a very long time. And then I've gone through periods where I've gone back on the medication. And that's for my case. Some people, it is better for them to be on it longer term,
Uh-huh.
depending on what their challenge is. But what I've always explained to people is, for me, when I'm super, 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 well, for me, it's called a major depressive episode. So, like, when I'm having a major depressive episode, before the medication, I had no idea what my brain should feel like. Like, I didn't know what was kind of normal for me. Like, because normal for me was spinning and going into this dark
Right.
circle, and one thing happens, and then everything else, all my rest of my thoughts are negative, 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 negative. So
Yeah,
I'm in a hole, right? And so what helped me,
absolutely.
right? So then what helped me was when I went on the medication, my mind was so clear, and it wasn't that things didn't still bother me or hurt my feelings, or, didn't have issues that I needed to deal with in therapy and, that came up for me, but it was that I could think of the issue and I could process it better. Right. And I could say,
Okay.
okay, this is a depressing or a sad thought, or this is a obsessive thought, or like whatever. And okay, so now I can think through this. I can pray. I can work through this issue. And I remember telling somebody when I first got on the medication, I was like, is this how everybody else's brains work that don't have this type of a challenge? I'm like, I've never been able to not have like
Wow.
compounding thoughts, that I couldn't really control. And so for me, when I then weaned off of the medication at one point, I learned behavioral things that helped me, because it's
Yeah.
right, because it's still something physical that happens in me. I still have those thoughts, because when I went off the medication, I went right back to having the same issues. But I was able to actually kind of stop and, as they say, capture those thoughts, right? And I was able to actually go, wait a minute, that's not a good thought. I'm going to stop myself right now. Here are the things that I'm going to do. And if those things don't work, I'm going to reach out for additional, help from my
Yeah.
therapist, or I'm going to tell somebody, this is what I'm thinking, or this is what I'm going through. And so I think, and then there are times where things just go on. There was a period during COVID where there was so much stress in 2020, I should say, where there was so much stress and so many things going on that I had to go back to therapy for a while, because I was just like, I am feeling like I can't control, these things. And so I always tell people that, medication absolutely, to me, is a godsend. It has a purpose. You
It
need to go
does.
to
Yeah.
a reputable, psychiatrist to be
Right.
prescribed and all of that, but not to shy away from it just because sometimes it is the option that I know in many cases saves people's lives, because depression is
Yes.
real. And so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Tell me a little bit more about, so, I mean, I love how, you talked about your family, you talked about this friendship with this, one of
Yeah.
your sisters on this retreat. Um, Tell me a little bit more about how the people in your life, and also your aide. Tell me a little bit more
Mhm.
about how the people in your life help you, to cope every day, with all the things that you
Sure.
go through. Experienced.
Sure. Well, my mom
Yeah.
basically, like, she was my caretaker before we found,
Okay.
my aide. And, she's still always going to be my
Yeah,
caretaker
right.
because
That's what
my
moms
mom,
do.
but she's getting older, so
Yeah.
it's harder for her. But so she's my number one support, though. I tell her she's my rock. I've learned many things, many ways to deal, and many things, like, about my faith,
Yeah.
through my mom.
Yeah.
So, um, I would always say, I when I would get upset or in a depression type of thing,
Hmm.
And my mom, a lot of times, she would recite Jeremiah. I know the plans I have. I forget. I know the plans
Plans
I
I
have
have for
for
you, says the
you.
Lord. Plans to
Yeah.
prosper and not to harm you. Plans to give you a
Yes.
hope and a future. I think I might have gotten a word off there, but 2911.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And that's what, so she would always, so finally she was reciting it so many times. She finally got me this little cross from my wall that has it
It has
on
it
it.
on there.
But she was really like she would recite that one because she would want me to know God has a plan for you.
Yeah.
Like she would tell me, like, you had many, many, many times where you could have died, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, even as a baby, like there was a time she had to, more than once, but one that sticks out in her mind, that she had to rush me to the hospital, and like she had to get a nurse to come with us. And it was like, I had to be transferred from one hospital to another, and she wanted a nurse to come with us and all this stuff. It was just, and she said the whole time she was like saying, like, baby, don't die, baby, don't. And she was,
Yeah.
so it was very, it was a hard times. So
Yes.
she's definitely taught me about strength,
Mm.
and about perseverance,
Yes.
which is a hard one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she slowly has taught me how to not worry about the future. That is a
Mm-hmm.
hard thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, not to worry about the next day or the
Mm-hmm.
next time something bad will happen, the next
Yeah.
shoe that will drop.
Mm.
Um, and she's trying to, even still, I mean, I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
But it, she got me this book for Lent last year that said, it was called Take, it was something like, God, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I have it right here. It's like, be worry free in 40 days or something.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I was like, I read it every single day. And honestly, Jamila, it
Yeah.
really gave you tips,
Yeah.
like
That's great.
good tips. And it
Yeah.
had like a little Bible passage every
Uh-huh.
day that would relate to how, you don't have to worry about that,
Mm-hmm.
beyond that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a practice, you have to keep at it.
Exactly. I think that's very, very key. Because, obviously we always are talking about how to choose joy. And I always tell people it's very, very, it's a daily thing. There's not really a secret to it. If there's a secret to it, it's God and the Bible and Jesus Christ, right? There's the secret. But once you understand who God is in your life, you understand his faithfulness, you understand all of that, then ultimately it is up to us to every day to choose, right? To
Yeah.
believe God, to choose to not to worry, to choose not to
Yeah.
fear, right? Because those things are natural. They are going to come every day as human beings, right?
Mhm.
But it's that choosing. And I think that's so beautiful that your mom gave you that book, because a lot of times, for me personally, there's a consistency is what also helps me to really persevere. When you talk about
Right.
perseverance, for me, it's kind of, when I start to feel off, I'll think about it and I'm like, how much time have I actually spent? Like, oh, I skipped my quiet time the last 2 days because my schedule, whatever
Right.
happened. And I'll realize, like, I have not really been in the word. I've been praying because I pray every day,
Right.
but like, I haven't been, like, I haven't purposefully sat down and said, okay, I'm blocking out everything else except God, and I'm going to meditate on this, word that I know would be an encouragement to me, or this promise that you've made here to us, in your Bible, in the word, in the Bible,
Right.
to me, that I can hold on to, and so I think that that's such an important thing that you shared. It's like that consistency is actually what creates that perseverance, so that every
Absolutely.
day, yeah, because we never know what,
Absolutely.
we're not promised tomorrow. People always say, I
Right.
always say, we're not promised 5 minutes from now either.
Right.
right? So
Right.
we can't spend our lives, stressing and worrying about that. When you talk about, I don't know how you feel about this, but when I talk to some of my other friends who have, some sort of chronic illness or something that they've dealt with for a really long time, sometimes they're like, I could have a great 2 weeks and then all of a sudden it'll hit me and I can't function, or, it just whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's not necessarily predictable. And
Right.
so, right. And so it's one of those things of like, that's a very natural place to be in, to worry of like, is it going to happen tomorrow? Is it
Absolutely.
going to happen? Right. So, but we don't want to spend our time focused on
Right.
that.
Right.
All we can do is cherish the moment that we have now and continue to ask for God's strength, and even proactively saying to him, like, Lord,
Right.
you've allowed this in my life. I wish you hadn't, if I'm honest, but you did. I love you anyways, and I pray that there is a reason for all of this, in my life. I trust that there is a reason because I trust
Right.
you. And
Right.
whenever the next time that you see fit to allow that to happen, I just pray that you would prepare me in advance for the strength I need to
Yeah.
get through it. And so I think that's, I know for me, that's how with, even with depression and anxiety, like there are times where when things are feeling really good, I'm always praying for that moment when I know that at some
That's a
point,
good idea.
right between now and the day I get to go home to see the Lord, I'm going to probably experience this, again. So let
Right.
me pray now in advance for the strength that I need for when that moment comes. Yeah.
That's a great idea, honestly. I
Yeah.
didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Because
something
it's
that's helped
true.
me. Yeah.
It's
Um,
true.
yeah.
And
Tell me,
but
what
so
are maybe some things that you've learned from your, advice or encouragement that you have for people, or some things that you've learned that have really helped you, whether it's just, scriptures that encourage you, or whether it's even actions and things that you do to kind of,
sure.
help yourself when you are having some of those seasons of struggle.
Sure, sure. Um, well, let's see, what can I say? Um, I praying.
Yeah.
Praying is, I can be like there's many things that I when I'm laid up for
Yeah.
whatever it is, like now I get multiple infections
Mhm.
all the time, UTIs, cellulitis, like you name it. I'm
Yeah.
on many antibiotics and they make you feel awful. So there's many times where I just feel crummy.
Hmm.
And I think to myself, well, how can I encourage?
Yeah.
Well, I can lay in bed and pray.
Yes.
That's always,
Mhm.
a given.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are even times where I'm like, Lord, I'm too tired to even speak the words. And
Yeah.
I actually pray in my mind,
Yeah.
but I know He knows what I'm thinking and
Yeah.
saying, and.
100%. Yeah.
So I definitely, I would say that is a big thing. Like if you can't bring yourself to do anything else,
Mhm.
at least for me, the praying gives me a little bit of peace.
100%. Definitely.
Um, and it helps me to focus less on what's going on physically
Yes.
and more on, the salvation and the good things and promises He's given us, all
Yes.
given us.
Well, and
And
oh no, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then as I've told you, and music is a big one.
Yes.
Music. And I was talking to my mom last night. I was like, I don't know, what do I say about music? And I said, well, it makes me happy, first of all. Like when you were singing that Joy to the World
Uh-huh.
that day, I mean, when you were saying you can't help but not sing it. And
Exactly.
if you start singing like a few words of a song, like you can't stay sad.
Yeah.
You just usually can't
Nope.
even if it's for those 5 minutes of that song,
Mhm.
it's getting you through the day.
Totally. Totally.
But so I like to listen to music, pop, Christian, gospel. I even like country. There's like a lot of
Uh-huh.
country songs that have really good meaning,
Yep. Yeah.
and you listen to the meaning, and it just there's times where you listen to it and you might find a different meaning because you're in a
Mm-hmm.
different place.
Yep.
So music I've always, like, growing up,
Yeah.
even as a young kid, I love to pretend to sing. I don't have a good voice. My sister was blessed with the good voice.
Okay, so somebody got it.
Yep. Somebody got it, and she can literally sing and bring me to tears
Oh
because,
wow.
like, her voice is beautiful.
Wow.
She won't think it is, but I'm like, whatever. But she has a pretty voice, but I like to sing regardless.
Yeah.
I know this is the voice God's given me, so I use
Well,
it.
and I always say it's beautiful to him. So,
Right.
I can't,
Exactly.
I always think of when you listen to a chorus and there's all these people, who individually, it's funny. Sometimes you can hear someone sing who's a part of a choir or a chorus or somebody that, that you're used to hearing, and you hear them sing individually and you're like, wow, their voice sounds so different than what I kind of imagined it to sound when I've been hearing them as a part of this group. And
Yeah.
it makes me think about how, what we think is bad, right, by our standards of a voice. If
Right.
we're all singing in chorus, similar to when we're all praying, our individual prayers, God is hearing all of that at the same time. And sometimes I like to imagine, like, what does that sound like to him? It must be so beautiful. What sounds
Yeah.
off key to me, probably
Right.
when he's hearing it all, right? It's kind of like when you're, if you're in a church service and everybody's singing at the same time, the people who don't have
Yeah.
a great voice are singing with the people who have a great voice, but somehow overall it still sounds so
It's
beautiful,
right.
right? So but so I don't know. I just think about that. I'm like, wow, just, it must be so beautiful for him to hear
For him
that.
to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I think when you were talking about music and singing, and I think about dancing. I love to dance. I used
Yeah.
to actually be a good dancer. Now I just do my thing. But I think about that too. I have a few friends who come to mind who love to dance, and we dance literally with reckless abandon. Like it
Uh,
probably looks crazy to anybody else. But it's kind of that similar thing of, I know when I've been sick or in the hospital and it's like maybe I can't physically like boogie
right.
really, but
Right.
sometimes I do my little chair dances,
Well, that's what I have to
move,
do because, I use a walker and
yeah,
stuff in home. So but when I go to family weddings, I'm in my wheelchair and I'm like, but my sister, her wedding, she was like, you go. She was dancing with me. We're doing fist bumps.
yeah, right.
I don't care,
Yeah, I think
you know?
it's a way to praise and worship, and actually, like you said, that it's that singing, that movement, that it's
Yeah.
just forgetting everything else, letting everything else fall, and just focusing on Him.
Yeah.
So through music and dancing, and when you were talking about praying, too, I was thinking, one of the things for me when I've had to have a few different surgeries over my life for various different things, and
Right.
health issues. And I know for me, when I'm in the hospital, something that helps me is, just like you were saying, praying, and then also praying for the people who are caring for me. So that kind of brings me out of what I'm going through, especially like if I've had to go into surgery and I'm starting to feel, anxious or nervous about it.
Uh-huh.
Instead of praying for, and I mean, we should be praying for ourselves too. So I pray for myself, but I also try to pray for, this doctor, this anesthesiologist who's about to put
Right.
a needle in my arm, and I hate needles, praying for that anesthesiologist and that doctor and those nurses and the other, people
Yes.
in the facility, not only as they're caring for me, but for the other people that they have to care for their families and the time that they've spent away from their families to care for others. And somehow praying in that way also helps me when I'm in a really trying, physical place,
Yeah.
because it keeps me from focusing so much on me, and helps me to actually, praise the Lord for His people and how they are,
Yeah. Yeah. I usually pray that, like, that God works through the surgeon's
yeah,
hands and through, and
yeah,
but yeah, for that's a great idea too, for their families and for
yeah,
all, their loved ones. And
yeah.
that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. What if somebody was struggling with, or even if somebody had, let's say, for somebody who maybe doesn't have the challenge of a chronic illness themselves, but
Right.
cares for someone else, is
Yeah.
there any encouragement you could give them or tips you could give them?
Yeah.
Share.
So I wanted to check in with my mom on this one too, but it turns out it's really funny. So what happened was she came up with one thing and I said, well, that's what I thought of. And then I came up with one thing and she said, well, that's what I was gonna say. So
Love it.
we both were gonna say the same things. So but one thing is um take care of yourself first. And
Yeah.
as my mom put it, like the oxygen mask in the airplane, like you can't take care of anyone else until that oxygen's on you, you
Yeah.
know? So you have to take care of yourself first. And I mean, I know, well, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure my mom has struggled with that in the past, where she wants to do everything, not just for me, but even, not caring for my siblings, but like when we were little, doing things for us,
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's one thing. You do have to do that. Second thing, I kept praying on that and praying on that question. And the word that kept coming to my mind was patience. And my mom said, yes, you need to have patience with you need to have patience with the people that are caring for you,
Mhm.
but that can be very hard sometimes when you are in a depression, or sometimes like I would snap at my mom, like, mom, just leave me alone, or mom, I don't know what's going to happen, like I'm upset, I'm scared, like
Yeah.
and literally that's how I would sound. And so you have to have patience both ways, I think.
Mhm.
And my mom was saying not only patience, but kind of what she tries to do is compassion, like in sense, patience and compassion, she tries to put herself in my shoes
Yes.
and imagine what it might be like for these people. So if
Yeah.
you have someone that's depressed, that you're caring for, just imagine as best you can what it must feel like to be in a
Yeah.
sad, bad state in your mind that you just can't get out of. As you said before, like a black hole,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so those are the two big tips that I would say for a caretaker.
Yeah.
And I would also say to people that are struggling with, again, any kind of chronic illness, physical or mental,
Right.
that a big tip I was going to say would be to, I think you kind of mentioned it, to kind of let somebody know,
Yes.
like, that even if, because like when I get real down, I don't really want to make a lot of phone calls,
Right. Yep. Same here.
but you know, you don't, and you don't want to socialize, but there's some way you kind of want to do it, like you want to be happy,
Hmm.
but you don't want to make that first move.
Yes. It's such a struggle. Yes.
It is. So there was one particular time when, the last couple of years, where I was in a really dark place,
Mhm.
and I just called my best girlfriend, the one that I would, call for anything. And I told her, I said, listen, I said, Jen, I can't see how this is going to get better.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. And she said, Melissa, she goes, and then she just talked to me, she's like, listen, there's always light at the
Mhm.
end of that tunnel,
Yep.
always. And she said, you're in a dark place and you know that you've been here. And so she helped me amazingly. She said, do you want me to call the church?
Yeah.
Like, I can get, someone to pray for you. I can, get someone to call you, whatever.
Yeah.
And because I think she knows that, like, it's hard for, I would normally make that call, but,
Right. Oh yeah.
So it's very helpful if you have, at least one or two people you can really trust, and that they will pick up the phone and they'll
Yeah,
help you.
exactly.
That's a
That is huge.
big one.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think to your point, there's times where you're just in this hole, in this depression, in this, even sometimes when I'm super like overwhelmed and anxious,
Yeah,
where it's like I just want to stop everything, so I don't want to talk to anyone, I don't want to reach out to anyone. I know I need to,
right.
but I physically am having a hard time. And even if I try to reach out, sometimes then I don't know what to say because I'm just so overwhelmed with my feelings. So it's like I don't want to reach out and waste somebody's time because I'm like I don't really have anything to say. I know
Absolutely.
that, right? I just know I'm struggling. And so, I have a couple of friends, to your point, really trusted friends who know, my depths of what I've gone through, and I know the
Right.
depths of what they've gone through.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You don't want to go into a whole big story with someone
Right.
you know.
Right. And so what we've done is we actually have kind of a little code where we have certain emojis that mean like we're like, okay, if I text you this emoji, it means like I am really struggling. I don't even have the words, but I just
Awesome.
need you to pray for me and whatever. And so, we don't have to write out anything. I don't have to call anybody. I can literally just text the one
Wow.
emoji and they do the same thing to me, and I'm like, okay, and if they text me, I'll reply back and I'll say I'm praying for you. Do you want me to call you?
Uh-huh.
Because, we can talk, but if not, like I'm praying for you, just know that, I'm praying. You don't even have to explain all the details. I just know you're in a dark place and you need some prayer. And then, of course, in the next, day or two, we follow up with each other,
Right,
regardless of if we said we wanted to talk or not, just to make sure.
right, right.
But that's kind of, one of those proactive things that I think people can do is
That's a great
right,
idea.
is to say like, okay, who are those family members or friends who like, we just have our own secret code. If you see me text this to you,
Yeah,
or if I email you this, one word, like I am struggling and I just, I need somebody to know that I'm struggling. um
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Better to reach out, I feel like, than just keep it all bottled up.
100%.
That's when it gets overwhelming, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it really is. It's hard to, I think one of the most important things is being able to admit when you're struggling to a point where you need some sort of help. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
help doesn't even have to be that serious. Like sometimes it's actually
right.
better to ask for the help when you start to feel it, right? Versus once you are fully into it. So sometimes I'll say like, something's off. I don't, I feel like I'm starting to focus on negativity, or I'm starting to, get a little depressed. I'm not sure, but so sometimes I'll reach out at that point. And then that way too, it's kind of a reminder to my friends of like, you know what? She said she was getting kind of in a mood. Let me follow up with her in a couple days and make sure she's not like
Mm,
really, in a valley. Um,
right, right.
yeah, I think that helps a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, let me see, we've been having such a great chat. Let me see what
I know.
else. So we talked about music and loved ones and all of your advice. I guess just, before we kind of wrap up, is there anything else that's on your heart or that maybe you chatted with, about with your mom, or something that, you really wanted to make sure to share?
Well, I did want to share the story that I told you that happened,
Yeah.
because I feel that it might be encouraging to other
Yeah.
people,
Please.
because it's helped my faith.
Yeah.
So, as you said, at a young age, that all was hard to deal with, right? So, going into 6th grade,
Okay.
I was 12,
Yep.
and the whole summer I was battling breathing problems. They were trying to get me lower on the steroids. And honestly, we had a doctor that we didn't realize at the time that he was doing a bad thing, because he was taking me down very quickly and way too low.
Gosh.
So I was struggling all summer.
Mm.
And finally, by the end of August, the very end of August, I went into the hospital.
Okay.
And I told my mom this, and this is a little weird. This is funny to explain because it's hard to explain, but it really happened that um, they were doing chest x-rays on me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a chest x-ray, you can't have your necklace on, right?
Right.
Or else you like have to put it up in your mouth, like near your,
Right.
So
Get the
I had
metal.
my cross on.
Mm.
And they were like, okay, so I took my cross and I put it up here, and I had this feeling. I just had this feeling come over me that it was going to be bad, but I was going to be okay, that God was going to be with me. It was like a scary feeling for a minute, but peace.
Wow.
So that happened first, and that was really weird to me.
Wow.
Like, because
Yeah.
I never had something like that happen, like a
Yeah.
premonition type thing.
Right.
So and then what happened was I ended up on a respirator
Oh.
for my breathing, and I had a near death experience. So my mom and dad had gotten the priest to come to give me last rites
Oh
because they didn't
gosh.
know what was going to happen.
Were
And
you at home?
no, I was in the
You're still in the
hospital.
hospital.
Like, I
Okay.
was in ICU. Yeah. And they couldn't figure out why my lungs weren't responding, even on the respirator. So finally, one of the pulmonology teams came in and they did another chest x-ray. I was out of it by
Out of
this,
it.
like I was so, and they found out that my whole one lung and then two lobes of my other lung had collapsed. So I was
Oh
breathing from
gosh.
one lobe
Oh
of a lung.
gosh.
So they had to inflate my lungs and do all that, which at least they found out the problem, because
Yeah, but oh.
so it was brutal. But there's a lot of it I don't remember, because what happened when I had this outer body experience, near death, whatever you want to call it, is I, first of all, it really happened. I went, I saw the people working down on my body,
Wow.
and I saw all the doctors putting in the chest tube and everything. Like, I didn't even really feel the pain. Like,
Wow.
so I saw all that happening. And then I went toward a warm light. I
Mm.
saw a warm light. It was just a very warm white light. I
Mm.
didn't see Jesus. I didn't see God. I didn't see anyone I knew.
Right.
Um, but what happened was my mom, I saw her crying in the waiting room. And I didn't know where the waiting room was.
Right.
So when I told my mom this story, she was like, wait, but you didn't know. I said, exactly. But that's how I saw it.
Wow.
So, and I didn't know she was crying or anything if I didn't. So she was crying, and a voice, and I believe it was an angel, and I'll tell you why. A
Yeah.
voice said, this is not your time.
Hmm.
And they said, do you see your mom? She can't lose you. She would be torn,
Yeah.
she would be defeated. And then I heard the voice say, your whole family needs you. And there were other people gathered in the waiting room.
Wow.
And they said, then the voice said, you have much more to do still. So that was all I could, that was all that went on. I didn't see anything else. And I just went quickly back from the light.
Wow.
They had inflated my lungs and everything, and I was free. But I believe, because I was very young when that happened.
Yeah, you were like 12?
Right. So I didn't put everything together, but over the years, ever since then, I've always, you could see my apartment right now. I have angels everywhere,
Everywhere.
like statues. And I truly believe that that is where I got my love of angels and my belief in so strongly in my angels
Yeah.
that that I always think that I have guardian angels and they're watching me overtime, my mom will say.
Yeah. Watching you
But
overtime.
yeah, you're like, she'll say to me, you're an overtime job for them, but
I have a sneaky suspicion that might also be, when you were in trouble as a kid, be like, these angels having to work overtime, keep this kid under control.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. How has that near death experience? So, you know, how has that impacted your outlook on, the challenges that you've faced as an adult, those
Yeah,
ongoing challenges?
yeah, it's had a big impact because um for many reasons, but
Yeah.
the reasons I can think of, um well, first of all, like I know I know that there's something beyond this life,
Yeah.
I know there is. And I I think it also has impacted my faith because
Mhm.
I think that my faith, like as such a young girl, like you said, to go through that and come back from that and be able to now tell the story,
Yeah.
I feel like it gave me even more of a yearning to be near God.
Yeah.
Like I really do. I was just like, and then the third thing is that I can go back to that as one of the times, okay, he took care of me during this awful, awful time.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously, like, that's, I believe my mom, like, when it's your time to die, it's your time. It doesn't matter really something's gonna happen
Yeah.
and you're gonna go.
Yeah.
But you hear stories, people that, are the only survivors on airplanes, people
Right.
that, so we don't know, as you said, from day to day.
Hmm.
But I'm comforted, and it can be one of the times that I can say, God, God got me through that. He'll
Yes.
get me through the next crisis.
Yeah.
It still might not, it might feel like hell when I'm going through it,
Hmm.
but I know he's going to get me through it somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. That when you said certainty, certainty in knowing that there's something beyond, certainty in knowing God,
Yeah.
that is honestly, that is, we were talking before we started recording about my favorite scripture, Romans 12:12, and being joyful in hope, right? Patient in affliction and faithful in prayer. And for me,
Right.
that joyful in hope is
Yes.
about tomorrow. It is about something maybe that I'm, selfishly hoping for in my life. But ultimately, joyful and hope for me is that hope in certainty in knowing that there is a heaven, that there is eternal
Yes.
life, that that's why Christ Jesus came and why
Right.
he died, right? For our salvation. And so ultimately, that's always hope, right? Regardless of anything else that we're going through in our lives, that hope is always there. And I feel like that's such a blessing. I've had a few strange, I don't even know if I would call them near death. For me, I don't know if they were near death experiences, although they kind of were, but I don't know, they're kind of, but I've had a few things happen in my life where there was just this moment of peace and clarity, and like you said, I could hear. I don't know if I've shared before, but I had a car accident at one point where my car actually hit a barrier on the freeway, flipped up into the air, and landed going the wrong direction on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, which
Oh my
anyone
God.
who knows LA, it's like the worst traffic all the time. And shockingly, I landed with my car going the wrong direction on the freeway and did not get hit. And all of the cars just stopped. And it was just a line of headlights I was looking at. And I remember being in the air as my car was turning and thinking to myself, I was not panicked at all. There was this weird sense of peace. And
Wow.
kind of to what you were saying, it was like, this isn't your time, but this
Wow.
is going to be bad, but this isn't your
Right.
time. Like, you're not about to die. And I knew that
Yeah.
that wasn't my mind or me. Like, I knew it was God
You
and His
just
Spirit
know.
speaking. Yeah. And so it was this similar to what you're talking about. It was like this. I mean, obviously it was not. I know people who had collapsed lungs from car accidents and things. I didn't have that, but I can't imagine being 12 and, and
Yeah.
having all that happen, and the pain that is. But like, I just remember thinking that when I was in the air, and I've tried to explain to people before, and I'm like, it's just, I can't explain the sense of peace that I had. And I know
Yeah.
it was the Lord speaking to me, and I didn't see I saw headlights. Everything
Yeah.
was in slow motion. But it wasn't like that's why I'm like, it wasn't really a near death experience, but that's what I kind of liken the experience to, of like, I knew that the Lord was speaking to me and telling me everything was going to be okay in a moment where nothing seemed like it was going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah. And so that is, you sharing that. I thank you for sharing that, because I
Sure.
think that it will encourage a lot of people in knowing that no matter what, I mean, you've shared, from pretty much 6 months of age, right? So pretty much from birth,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
been battling a chronic illness that, even some of the good things that were treatments for this illness have caused other challenges, right? With
Right.
depression. You have, shared with us, even about, your mom and the challenge. It's a challenge when you are caring for somebody that you love with
Absolutely.
all of your heart, right? But there's challenges there, and and on both sides, for you and for her.
Right.
You shared about, all of the, seemingly random, but I know it's God, so it's not
Huh.
random, but people that He's brought into your life to kind of
Yeah.
help you along the way, and then, and that near death experience at, the age of 12, being something that actually kind of, it's almost like He showed you that, so in preparation
Yeah.
for all of these other things, right? So
That's what I
it's,
was just gonna say. Yeah, I
yeah,
believe
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. And so I just, yeah, I thank you for sharing that, because I think sometimes we also can feel isolated in our pain or in our personal experience, and we don't realize, number one, the growth and how God's using those things to draw us closer to Him, but also how just in you, for example, sharing all of these things, I know that there is ladies who are going to hear this and be so encouraged by things that you've
Oh,
said.
I hope so. Yes.
And it's just such a blessing to, if I always tell people, my infertility is worth it because of all of the things that I've seen God use it to do in other people's lives,
Hmm.
not for me, right? And so,
Right.
um,
Right.
yeah, it's such a blessing, and I'm really glad that you took the opportunity to chat with me
Oh, well,
about
thank
this
you. It
stuff.
was really I was glad to do it because it's some I feel like it gives my story a purpose if I
Yeah.
can help anyone through it, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. It
Yeah.
definitely does. Um, yeah. So I thank you again, like I said, for taking the time to chat with me, but I also thank you again for being so just faithful inside of our community, because, whether it's the other ladies or whether it's me, anytime I see you, especially when you post some music stuff, I'm always like, oh, wait, what is this song? Have I heard this song
Oh,
before? Let me listen to it.
I'm
Um,
so
yeah, I love music too. And so you've really encouraged me.
oh, that's great. I'm happy for that. I am.
Yeah.
Because it was, it was a hard time to find what my purpose might be. And I think it might be just as simple as trying to encourage other people and tell
Yeah.
other people about my faith
Yeah.
and,
100%.
in any way. So
Yeah.
it was a great opportunity for me and I appreciate you giving it to me, really.
No, of course, of course. All right. Well, this will not be the only time we chat. We
Uh,
will definitely be chatting some more. And like I said, we'll definitely, I'll be keeping you and everybody else posted as I try to figure out when our next kind of, gathering will be and how it's all going to work.
Okay.
Some random, won't be plants, but I have some other other
Okay.
ideas that God's given me for some activities
Okay.
that I hope will be super encouraging
Oh, I'm sure
to
they
you.
will be.
Yeah. No, so please give a hug to your mom for me.
I will. I
Yes.
will.
Give her a hug. And like I said, thank you so much for being a part of the community and for inviting so many other ladies into it as well.
Sure, Jamila, of course. And thank you for bringing it to all of us.
Of course,
Really.
of course, of
And
course.
for all your encouraging words. Honestly, they've really done a whole lot for me. And I know for other women here too. So
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
of course.
Hello, ladies. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Yet I Choose Joy. You can probably tell by my hair, it's been a few days since I recorded that chat with Melissa, but I wanted to make sure to add this little snippet on the end to ask you if you have an encouraging testimony to share or just some encouragement that you'd like to share here inside the community. Definitely direct message me in the community and let me know. Asher would like to know as well. Um, Let me know. And I'd love to hear about your story, your testimony, and see if it might be something that could be shared on our blog or in another episode of Yet I Choose Joy. So until next time, I was waiting for you to complete it. Okay. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer.